Some of you are going to feel like this is too early to make this statement, but I'm going to make it anyway. We've been let down. We thought somebody was coming into power that was going to give us answers, yet that somebody hasn't. And it appears as if it is by design. There's a plan behind it. And it's not just him. It's those who are in power around the globe. So listen, they have not come out and announced it yet. They probably won't for 3 more months, 6 more months, if ever. They're trying to get away from even coming out and making the official announcement that we're in the next pandemic, but it appears as if we are. We've connected more dots, and I'm here to share those dots with you today because it's you folks who watch these videos and who chime in the comment section and who email us at the channel, the address being crazylake@mail.com, who are the dots that we connect to put all this together. So we're going to get just a little bit more technical going forward, and many of you know I have a science background, but I am also highly trained in making the complicated simple. So you're going to be able to keep up. Trust me, hang in there with me. First question, what is a spillover event? Do you have any clue what a spillover event is in regard to science, particularly in biology? All right, well, hold that thought. If you know or you don't, just hold that thought. Because I'm going to start with a comment from a viewer. Totoro7271. Okay, if that's you, shout out to you. Now listen to this. Once upon a time, if somebody like me would have come on social media and read a comment like this, you would have said 2 things. Number 1, conspiracy theory. Number 2, science fiction. Totoro7271 writes, a few months ago, I read an article on the internet which said that researchers on a remote island are investigating whether the kakahichu virus can also jump to mammals. They had brought cows to this island for this purpose. I didn't find what the result of the research was afterwards, but my suspicion is that they weren't just observing, but actively tinkering with the virus to make it more infectious to mammals. So if somebody came out and said that, you'd say, oh man, they're crazy. They're a conspiracy nut. They actually think the scientists are trying to figure out how to get the strain to transform enough to where it can leave one species and infect another. Who would do that? Well, this is from Politico, just yesterday. Politico.com, to state my source. This is one sentence that I've taken out of an article that I'm going to read to you in full context here in just a minute. From Politico, spillover event. They define it because that's what the article's about, because we just had one, a big one. Spillover event is the term for when a new strain of a virus infects another species. All right. Now, I went ahead and Googled this information because you guys in the comment section, in the emails, this is all you're talking about. And I didn't want to come on here and just read a comment like I did in the beginning of the video, because I know I'm going to sound cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs unless I had information to back it up. Strange island where they're doing strange scientific experiments. Definition just defined that shows that it does happen. I Googled it. Here's what's been reported. The U.S. Department of Agriculture first reported a multi-state outbreak of H5N1, kakahichu, in dairy cows on March 25, 2024. So 11 months ago, they reported that this spillover had taken place. I also found when I Googled this, it says the USDA has detected a new strain of kakahichu in dairy cattle that may escape some of the immunity associated with other strains, which means whatever has kept this strain out of non-bird creatures, this strain can get through it, and it's gotten into cows. All right. So the things we were saying just a couple of months ago that people were calling us crazy conspiracy nuts for are now, you wait till I get to the article, because this is terrifying. And I'm going to preface this article by letting you know a little bit about a conversation I had just a couple of days ago with my contact, who is a very high-ranking, top clearance official in one of the government agencies that's not allowed to talk about anything right now, okay? I got together with this gentleman. It was just shortly after I got back. My family and I got back from Key West, where I got this awesome hat. And probably some more health issues, as I'm convinced Florida and states like Arizona, where there's large populations of retired folks, is ground zero. This is where the depopulation is going to take place because, hey, survival of the fittest, natural selection, you take out the weak from the herd, right? And that's no offense to you folks. Actually, it's embarrassing and it's disgusting, and it's offensive that the elite would choose those who have worked so hard for so long to contribute so much to our societies around the world. People in their late 60s, 70s, 80s now did so much for so long, but now that they're considered a burden just from a budgeting standpoint, it's like a P&E statement, profit and expenses, P&L statement, profit and loss. Oh, look, they generated revenues for us for years. They gave the best 30 to 40 years of their lives to make the corporations we own rich while we were a bunch of playboys on white sandy beaches in the tropics. Yeah, and they bought all those pharmaceutical things we told them they needed. Oh no, don't exercise, don't eat healthy, don't take care of yourself, just take these tablets. So cha-ching, cha-ching, cha-ching. The Pfizer Pharmaceutical, Merck, AstraZeneca, all the healthcare industries, companies, biggest companies. Oh, but now the actual medical procedures they need to have performed on them because they didn't take care of themselves or because they just worked themselves into the ground to make us rich, the elite are saying, well, we don't want to cover that cost. Let's just unalive them all. How? Well, shoot, let's get something out there that they don't want. Tell everybody not to worry about it because, oh, it only affects you if you're elderly and have underlying health conditions. Well, that's who they're going after. So anyway, I asked my buddy. He told me he's leaving the country. He's getting ready to leave the country. I said, is this work related? He says, I don't know. So what do you mean you don't know? I said, I know you're not allowed to talk about any of this stuff, but is your position safe? Is our new guy that we all thought was going to come in and explain the drones, explain the fog, explain the chemical smells, explain the strange sounds of what sounds like rocket ships taking off to lift up in outer space for like 7 seconds and disappear? Why isn't he explaining any of this? What can you tell me about this? He says, I have no idea. He says, I don't know if my job's going to be there tomorrow or not. And I think the guy's insane. I said, insane? How so? What's going on? He says, listen, it's just all about like legacy at this point. He's just trying to make sure he's remembered. And more than anything, he's literally trying to set it up to where he can serve a third term. And I'm like, well, that's all great. Everybody wants to be remembered, especially those guys. I mean, we know they're narcissists. Listen, here's the thing about narcissists and narcissism. It's a personality trait. If you have it, if you're narcissistic and you're able to control it, you're not a bad person. Typically, narcissists, they have big egos, but they also have a lot of confidence. And it's that confidence that allows them to become presidents, not just that, but become quarterbacks in the NFL, to become fighter pilots. We need those people. But now it's a beautiful thing when somebody who is a narcissist or has narcissistic traits is able to be aware of it and keep it in check. When they're able to say, okay, I know I'm great, but I don't need to go out there and tell everybody that. It's okay if I just do what I do to the best of my ability, which as a narcissist, I know is going to be better than anybody else can do it. But I'll let the people tell me. It's like Muhammad Ali said, and Muhammad Ali was a narcissist, but he kept it in check, unless if he was showboating to try to draw a crowd. But he said, listen, when you're good, you tell everybody. You know, people go around telling everybody how good they are. Yeah, maybe they are good, but when you're great, you don't need to tell anybody because everybody will tell you. All right, good example. So my buddy, who he doesn't know, listen, he doesn't know if his job's going to be there tomorrow or not. All he knows is the guy in charge that we all thought, even myself, I thought, oh, get old creepy Uncle Joe out of there, let him go to the retirement home and sleep forever. The new guy's going to tell us what's going on because the old guy didn't. Well, now the new old guy is in there and he's not telling us anything either. So let me get now to this article from Politico. It's an exclusive. Came out just yesterday, less than 24 hours. The title is this. Again, all credits to Politico.com, and the author, the journalist, is Marsha Brown. Okay? Trump administration firings hit key office handling hachu response. And if you're new to the channel, listen, I'm calling it hachu because I am convinced that the actual term is being censored. And again, to say, well, why can they say it in the media but not in social media? Let me tell you, media, bona fide media, is protected by freedom of the press. Social media is not. Social media platforms are privately owned companies. They're either privately owned or they're publicly traded. YouTube, for example, is owned by Google. Google's a parent company, a publicly traded company. Fakebook, which most folks call Facebook, I call it Fakebook because nothing about it's real, as you know, is a publicly traded company, trades under the stock symbol META, META. My wife and I own some, both in our IRAs, owned by Mark Zuckerberg, but a publicly traded company. So they can decide at any given time, you know what, we don't want people talking about that. Well, why not? Well, just because. So let's cancel them. Let's just get rid of them. They can do it. So I'm being proactive, something that is not common, by saying caca, caca, hachoo. Now, let's get on with the article. And I'm not reading all of it, just the key points, because we've got to discuss, more that you folks have seen and noticed and brought to our attention, because the media isn't. The government's telling people they're not allowed to. And not just this government, we got something coming at you from the UK that is just the same, okay? So here we go. Laboratories in a national network of 58 facilities responding to the spread of caca, caca, hachoo were notified Friday, just a couple days ago as of this recording, that 25% of the staff in a central program office coordinating their work were fired in the Trump administration's mass layoff of federal employees. The U.S. Department of Agriculture's National Animal Health Laboratory Network Program Office has a staff of only 14 people. But it plays a major role in responding to animal disease outbreaks. It's responsible for data management, ensuring that labs across the country are conducting the same tests and following similar protocols to accurately and effectively track animal diseases. So basically, this is disrupting the information stream. There's not going to be enough people there to coordinate to make sure things are going as they should be and that everybody's communicating. Remember, think about before 9/11, before the FBI and the CIA got together and compared notes. This is the decomparing of notes is what's going on, okay? The labs that make up the American Association of Veterinary Laboratory Diagnosticians were informed that testing and other responses to the H5N1 outbreak, caca, caca, hachoo, get this, would be slower after the layoff, said Heath, director of the Wisconsin Veterinary Diagnosis Laboratory. Here's a quote from him. They are the front line of surveillance of this entire outbreak. So here's our government men and women put in place by our elected officials who are on the front line, just getting axed. He continues, they're already underwater and they are constantly short-staffed. If you take all the probationary staff out, you'll take out the capacity to do the work. So this is taking away a large portion of the front line in this epic battle against the next pandemic. They've just been given the sack. Avian influenza has killed, and this is from the article, again from Politico, has killed more than 100 million birds since the start of the current outbreak in 2022, including 22 million in the last 30 days. So 1/5 of the birds that have died in a 3-year period, 20% of them have died just in the last 30 days. And yet they've not come out and announced that we're in it. Yeah, folks, that's why I'm here. That's why this crazy guy on YouTube is here. Keep coming back for more, or you're not going to know anything, okay? Continuing. The virus has spread in the past year to dairy cattle, infecting the majority of California's herds and setting off outbreaks in more than a dozen states. What better way is it to get rid of an infected herd? Some folks would say that to save the village, sometimes you've got to burn it to the ground. Connect the dots, folks. USDA's Animal and Plant Health Inspection Service announced a third spillover event. Remember I asked you at the beginning of the video, what's a spillover event? This is the third one, folks. And again, this is where I got the quote from, spillover event, the term for when a new strain of the virus infects another species. Okay, here's the third one. We talked about it yesterday. It's happened in dairy cattle in Arizona. Another indicator that the nation has not yet contained the H5N1 virus. Kakakahachu, which is now transmitted to mammals. And let's not forget the article I read last week about 1,800 baby seals, which are mammals found dead from a strain that mutated on the beaches of Argentina in 2023. So cows, these are not the first mammals that have been susceptible to this new strain. They're not the first mammals, okay? They're the first mammals we're being told about in the U.S. press. Continuing, the outbreak has sent the price of eggs skyrocketing to a record high of $4.95 per dozen and led to shortages in some grocery stores. $4.95? I wish I could find them for $4.95 a dozen where we live. They're almost twice that. I've heard some people in the comment have said eggs are $20 a dozen, and somebody said that where they live, the grocery store is splitting them up into little containers of 3, and they're selling them for $3. Is it $3 for 3 eggs? Yeah. Well, gee, do the math, folks. That's $12 a dozen. That's 2.5 times as high as this price I just quoted. All right. Continue with that article, and this is finishing it up. Then I'm going to bring you a dot. Somebody from the UK sent us, and I'm going to connect that one for you to show this is worldwide. Brooke Rollins, who was confirmed and sworn in as Secretary of Agriculture this week, said that she convened a meeting about Kakakahachu on her first day on the job. It's unclear whether the layoffs were discussed. So this person, Brooke Rollins, clearly considers this an important enough of an issue to where on day one of her new job as appointed the head of this division, decided to talk about it, but we just don't know what she said because no one's allowed to say. Thousands of USDA employees, again going back to the article, across multiple agencies, most of whom are new hires, have been notified they would lose their jobs as the Trump administration moves to aggressively shrink the federal government. But folks, to prove it's not just happening here, we're going to take a hop across the pond. Let me read you an article that came in from Mumo9413. Shout out to you. They wrote, yep, being proactive, which is what I'm trying to do. I'm getting out here and tell you the stuff that they're not telling you. That most people can't read between the lines anymore, and they're banking on that. All right, so they write, I wrote to the UK government in December of 2019 to see what was happening, requesting them to shut down all ports of entry for 2 months because this person, and they're qualified to know this, they knew something was coming in. They cited Nature Magazine's Shi Zhengli et al. And gain of function experiments, etc. I was retired, but with 30 years of an operating room career with infection prevention / microbiology training. So this was a 30-year-long medical professional who specialized in infection prevention. They got a letter back that said, thank you for your concern, blah, blah, blah. Next month, all the Shi Zhengli publications were removed from the national magazine, and the rest is history. So all this medical professional did was inform the UK government who the people should not be listening to. Well, then, of course, my natural next question was, who is this person, Shi Zhengli? So I Googled it. It's one of the top infectious scientists of our time. It's a 60-year-old woman from China who, get this, on January 28th, the American Academy of Microbiology elected 109 new fellows to the class of 2019. These fellows represent China, the U.S., France, Ireland, the Netherlands, Israel, Korea, etc. Professor Shi Zhengli from Wuhan Institute of Virology, Chinese Academy of Sciences, has been elected a fellow of the American Academy of Microbiology. So one of the most astute microbiology organizations in America determined that this woman, who was one of the most astute microbiologists in all of China, was worthy of being in their club. Yeah, they became a fellow. And the UK said, oh, we can't let the people hear what she has to say. Shut her down. You remember the last one. The last one came, the guy that's currently in charge, that was in charge then, said, oh, don't worry, folks, we don't have anything to fear. It's just a little cold. Well, what'd the other guy say? And his people? They said, oh, no, we have everything to fear, and you got to wear masks, and if you don't, you're a selfish bad word because you only care about yourself and you got to get these jabs, and he's just trying to make you think, the other guy's trying to make you think this is nothing serious, so you'll reelect him and blah, blah, blah. Well, what happened? What is human nature? This is sad, especially for 97% of the population. Human nature is to be scared and to run away like a coward. So they bought it, hook, line, and sinker. Old guy was out, new old guy came in, and well, what happened there? We still don't know. And I made a note to myself about this because I'm trying not to say this the wrong way. I'm trying not to get canceled, because if I get canceled, I can't help. You know what I mean? So it turns out, other than the main targeted group, which, by the way, who suffered during that last one? The majority of those who perished were older folks with underlying health conditions, the primary targeted group of what's going on, because the elite views them now not as a profit but as a loss, as a burden. So turns out, other than the main targeted group who I just discussed, the majority of us had nothing to worry about. As it turns out, I had it twice. The first time I had it, I actually tested positive after finishing a 5-mile run. 1 week later, after taking it easy and drinking lots of fluids and eating what I could, I came out and ran a mile. So anyway, and the second time, it was barely noticeable. I could just tell there were similarities from the first time. But anyway, a lot of the folks never bought into it at all, and they refused the jab, etc. Now, here's the next question, because these are the next dots that we need to connect. So a lot of folks have been asking me in the comment section, and a lot of folks have been emailing me and asking me this. The folks who are having issues now from the mysterious fog, from whatever the drones have been spewing out, whatever's in the air when this fog comes in, these strange weather events come in, the snow comes in, the snow that unalived 7 of my 8 quails, and the 8th one is happy and living free in our meadow. We turned her loose before we went to Key West, and she's got company. We've always had a couple get away when we clean their cages, and they just stick around here. We catch them on our trail cam sometime, or sometimes I see them when I'm jogging around the property. So she's fine. The others weren't. They perished. So I've been affected by the fog, okay? I still have some lingering upper gum pain. I don't know why, but it was after breathing it the other day. I will tell you this. Yeah, I got the jab. But the question is this: those who are being affected negatively from it, did we all get the jab? Because a lot of folks who are not being affected by this new whatever in the heck's going on are telling me in the comment section and in the emails I'm receiving that they did not get the jab. And so there's conversation out there that there's a link, that the jab was basically just to make us more susceptible to the next one, to the new whatever it is they're not telling us about. I want your thoughts on that. And as far as not being told by our new elected savior, which has let me down, I was convinced, because he even said that on day 2 he'd get to the bottom of the drone nonsense. And what he said was not enough information. It just wasn't acceptable. He said that the FAA had given clearance to the drones. They were doing research and other things. That's all we got. So anyway, it seems to all be coming down to control of information. Yet again, that's why I'm saying kakakachu on here, so I don't get canceled. But the question is why? Is it so the masses will not panic and cause more harm to themselves, such as the War of the Worlds radio experiment by H.G. Wells? And we talked about that a couple of months ago on a video. You remember that? They did this radio broadcast. A lot of people listening actually thought we were being attacked by aliens. They went out, tried to speed away to get out of the area, and some of them wrecked their cars. There were allegedly fatalities, though the government people claim there weren't. People were going outside their houses and shooting their rifles at water towers because it was dark, but they could see this big looming figure, and they thought it was a Martian. They lost their minds. John D. Rockefeller is said to have funded that experiment, and that experiment's purpose was said to see how the people would act if they were to panic over something serious. Well, we found out, didn't we? They'd lose their crap and do more harm to themselves than whatever it was, whatever the situation would actually do to them instead. Is that it? And going back to what my buddy said, is this whole thing about controlling the information, not just to avoid panic, but is it due to a particular narcissistic type individual? Is it due to him pursuing a third term? Is that third term more important than the livelihood of the folks that put him in office anyway? Don't hate on me because I'm asking this question. You know, even if you're bowing down and worshiping the guy, you got to be asking the same question too. Listen, I don't pick sides. The left wing and the right wing, like George Carlin said, they both belong to the same bird. I tell you, it's not the party that matters. It's the money and the power that matters. They have it and we don't. And they're not giving us any answers. Stay tuned for more, folks. Again, you can email us your stories, crazylake@mail.com. Again, True Hauntings Volume 8 is out. All the stories I simply don't have time to read are in there. Send us yours. Give us permission to use them. Let us know if you want to be kept anonymous or if we can use your name. We'll do what you wish based upon your wishes. But folks, stay safe out there. And again, the only advice I feel compelled to give and that I'm qualified to give, and this is based upon my experiences, when you see that fog rolling in, you roll inside, indoors. Stay out of it. Keep your head, your eyes, your nose on a swivel, folks. We'll see you for more next time.